Thank you for tuning in again. I have a special episode lined up. This is an interview that was done with my good friend Oliver Borr. He is a fellow real estate marketing agency owner. I had the pleasure of being on his show. So go ahead and check out his show. You can find him on Anchor, and I'll drop the link below. And he has the audio version, and I'm going to go ahead and put the video version on my YouTube channel. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any feedback or comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And thanks so much, guys.
Hi, Angelica. How are you?
Hi, Oliver. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show.
My pleasure. I was actually meaning to ask you because I know you're in California. So how are the forest fires going on right now?
They are spotty. You know, I don't like watching the destruction happening. I heard it's the record destruction of, damage. Unfortunately, thankfully the skies are clearing up. The fires are pretty far away from me, and so hopefully it will be contained soon. Right now, I'm happy that the haze is gone. There was haze out here pretty bad. There was ashes on my car at one point, which was insane. I was like, no.
I actually had a guest on the show last week, and he's from Vancouver, and he was actually saying that it was really bad in Vancouver. Also, the air quality was really bad even up there, even though they're so far away from the fires. Like, it's crazy. This stuff is just ravaged, eh?
It's just insane. This world is just like Mother Nature's imploding. It's gotta pray for Mother Nature.
It's definitely been a crazy year. So let's just switch gears for 1 second. As an LA native, I have to ask, Clippers or Lakers?
Oh, dang, you went there. Oh man, I'm gonna probably make a lot of people mad. But first off, I'm not a huge NBA watcher. I'm an NFL watcher. That's my sport of choice. But for basketball, guilty by association, the Clippers.
That's okay. I was actually rooting for the Clippers this year. I much prefer
them. Okay.
But I definitely thought they were going to make the finals with that lineup. I was very shocked, as was everybody in the world, that they got bumped out so early. But anyway, you'll still have a party when all's said and done, assuming that the Lakers finish us off, which they will. But so that's going to be fun still, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you started in advertising?
I've always had a passion for graphic arts, and it evolved. And I feel fortunate that I picked this career early on. And when I was in high school, I was a part of the yearbook. Always loved photography. And then as I graduated from high school, that's when Adobe Photoshop was born. And I was literally in Photoshop 1.0 class. And it was perfect for me because I love art. I've always been like a computer nerd when I was in elementary. I just love computers. So it was a perfect mix for me. And so I decided to get a communication advertising degree right out of high school into college. And right away, I just never looked back. And thankfully, this industry is just always evolving, and it keeps things interesting, and it keeps me learning and always trying to be better. So luckily I learned pretty early, what I wanted to focus on.
Right. So I did a little bit of research on you. And
oh no,
don't worry, all good things. But you've sort of, I don't want to say been all over the place, because it wasn't all over the place. There's obviously a theme to it all.
No, that's true.
But I was wondering if you could sort of go over, I suppose, your work experience, things that you've done, accomplishments, jobs, that type of stuff.
Yes. That's the other reason this industry was perfect for me, because I was able to get by on project contracts. And I loved that. My parents hated it because they were like, where's your stability? My goal in life is to always get better every year. And instead of waiting for an employer to give me a bonus, putting in years and years of work, waiting for a dollar bonus, I wanted to take matters into my own hands. And so I was always taking on art contracts. When I first had my degree and I was living in Arizona, my father, a retired military there, I got a job at the local newspaper there, and I worked alongside some Army journalists, and I was able to do graphic design there. And then I got, kind of starry-eyed, wanted to get out of the small city into the big city. And my family, we have family in California. I was born in California, and so I always wanted to come back to California. So I moved to LA. And actually, I used to look through the Craigslist when I was in Arizona. I would look at how much designers were getting paid in LA, and they were getting paid $50 an hour. This was like 15 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, I should be making money like that. And so I moved here. But along the way, I was always having an entrepreneurial drive. And so that's when my love for art was still instilled in me, my love for music. Everybody loves music, and I kind of meshed the two, and I formed an entertainment company. So I was working alongside artists and actually publishing a magazine. That was before the digital era. That's how long I've been in this industry. I evolved from the print advertising. And once Y2K hit, and Oliver, you're probably too young for this.
I do remember that. I'm young. I'm not quite that young, but I was young when it happened. That's for sure.
I love telling people, you're too young to remember that.
No, I'm basically just old enough that I remember the fireworks, but I don't remember the conspiracy theories. We'll put it that way.
I like to pride myself on saying that I knew it was, just a bunch of talk, and calculators know how to go to 2001. That was the whole thing. Like, computers never went past the year 2000. What's going to happen? Well, it's a calculator.
It's such a ludicrous comment nowadays, eh? Like, they're not going to know how to switch to that many zeros. It's like, I think they'll figure it out.
I know. And nothing happened. So that prompted me to learn how to do website design, because at the time you couldn't get, now they combine the positions. You can get that same position, web designer, graphic designer, but back in the day, they were all separate. Web designers were making way more. And, I was always chasing the money. And so there was passion behind it, but I also wanted to evolve with the times. Also at the time, a ton of magazines folded. And I had a little publication, and I call it little, it wasn't mainstream or anything, but I had a good following. I had a subscription base, but I saw huge magazines fold. And so I was like, I need to be a web designer now.
So did you decide to move to LA from the publication, or?
Yes.
Okay, that was okay. Yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
Yes, I had family. I actually was reached out by an investor. They wanted me to expand the publication.
Oh, wow.
I was doing really well in Phoenix, and we brought it to where I'm at now. I'm actually living in Long Beach, which is, right on the border of LA. It's in LA County. It's on the border of Orange County as well, but in LA. And if I look back, hindsight 2020, I wouldn't have made a move to Los Angeles so early on. And, instead of me being a big fish in a small pond, I say this a lot, I came to LA and I was immediately a small fish. And, I still persevered, and I made a great network in LA. I was actually welcomed pretty openly to LA. I was invited to the #1 hip hop station out here as soon as I moved out here, and I got on air, which was crazy. People heard me on the radio, and I had just moved here. And so I've always learned how to navigate and use your network, right? That's so crucial to anything, is using your network.
Right.
But eventually things went to digital. I launched the website for it, but I ended up just saying, you know what, this is a little bit hard. I didn't have the same staff in LA that I did in Phoenix. And so I decided to just get a job in an ad agency. And I switched gears, and I kind of, wanted to rethink what I was doing here and restructure and kind of step back. And that really helped me. So I worked at a few ad agencies, and from then on, I've worked at some top agencies in LA. One was Punch Studios. They're in Studio City. They're right next to Sony Studios. And LA is a great place to be in advertising and marketing. And eventually I got offered to be the director of marketing for a real estate brokerage. And that's when I decided that I wanted to really focus on real estate. And going back to your overall life goals, as far as making more money every single year. And I had always heard Warren Buffett, say that you can't build wealth without having real estate in your portfolio. And I thought that was the perfect marriage, to be in a real estate office and be able to do my marketing, and I could get the best of both worlds. So I was there for a few years. The brokerage was very successful. They were the number one brokerage in California at the time, and as far as Keller Williams rankings. And after a couple years, my contract ended, and that's when I knew. And I did give myself I was there for 2 years, and I gave myself a 2 year limit. I was like, after my second year, I feel like I've reached my ceiling, I'm going to find something new, because that's been my history. That's been, what I've done. That's what I've done my whole entire life, is like rebuild, rebuild, rebuild. And I'm not sure if that was instilled in me because I grew up in the military and we moved every 3 years. And so I feel like that kind of has something to do with the way I look at things, is always trying to change your environment. But I thought when I moved to California, I want to stop moving around. I want to just be still. And so I've been in Long Beach for 12 years now. That brokerage I was at, they're here in Long Beach, and I ended up leaving and launched my own company in 2018. And I, in the beginning, was saying yes to every project that would come my way, because immediately I just wanted to match my salary, because there was people that I knew that were telling me, don't quit your day job. You're not going to make it. How are you going to make money? You're walking away from a cush job right now. Why would you do that? But it's just something that's what I know. And I know every year I'm going to try and always get better. And I knew after the second year, I didn't feel like I could grow too much more there, aside from becoming a real estate agent.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting my license. But, the first month of me leaving and launching my company, I matched my salary. And so
Wow, that's awesome. Good for you.
yeah,
That's hard to
thank
do.
you.
First month of starting a new company. That's crazy.
First month. Yeah,
That's
first month.
awesome. So I definitely want to get back into what motivated you to actually leave that job, because that's something that really fascinates me. But before we get into that, let me just ask, who
Okay.
is the coolest person that you ever talked to, interviewed, or anything like that while you were working in the entertainment industry?
Oh, that has to be Johnny Jackson. He is the producer for Tupac's biggest selling album, All Eyes on Me.
That's awesome.
I know, he's amazing. He passed away, sadly. But if you look up Johnny J, he always wanted to be more as well known as Dr. Dre. And he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And that's one of the things that we talked about before he passed away, is that he really wanted me to help him get his face out there. And we had a lot of talks, and he was very encouraging. He had all my magazines in his recording studio. He worked with major artists. He's produced so much music. If you look up his resume, he's done so much. And he always felt he didn't get recognition like Dr. Dre did. And that was one of his, things that he really wanted to fix before, we didn't know he was going to die so young. But yeah, he was a mentor. He was a mentor for me. He encouraged me a lot when I was in LA. And, the entertainment industry is definitely not easy. There's a lot of shallowness in it. There's a lot of fakeness in it. And he told me a lot of stories about Tupac, and he had so many sides to him. And I feel fortunate that I was able to be a friend. And when he passed away, the family asked me to do his obituary. And so we did a magazine style for him for his obituary. And so, yeah, I mean, that he's probably the coolest one that I have talked to. I mean, there's so many though
Yeah,
in the
but that's
entertainment
amazing because
industry.
you didn't. It's not like you just met them, right? Like in my head, because okay, if you ask me the coolest person that I met, obviously business leaders, but business leaders aside, the coolest, like, let's say celebrity that I met is probably Snoop Dogg. And in your head, it's like, oh, well, you met Snoop Dogg. Like, he was walking past me in Times Square and he was like, excuse me, in a Snoop Dogg voice, whatever it is. And then I kind of walk around, I was like, oh my God, that guy looks like Snoop Dogg. And then I was actually going to the bathroom. And then when I'd come back from the bathroom, all of a sudden, this guy who was the same guy was surrounded by hundreds of people taking pictures. And I was like, no way, Snoop Dogg spoke to me. So that's sort of a little bit what I was expecting. Like, oh, maybe I sat down for an interview. But this like legend in the industry
Yeah.
was like a friend of yours. That has to
Yeah.
be invaluable, no?
Oh, it was, I still think about it. And also when I designed the magazine, I did it in his studio and he wasn't there, and I was like surrounded by all his plaques and in this place where he had recorded so much great music. And, you know, I just really wanted to make him proud. Like, so it's sad that he's gone, it's like
Yeah.
so he's probably the coolest, definitely the coolest person. And he was a mentor. He was definitely a mentor. He was very encouraging. He even told me like who to watch out for, and he would give me a lot of good advice. And he was just a great guy. And so sucks that he
Yeah.
got his life got cut short, and there's even controversy on how he died. So
Right.
if you look it up, there's a couple different theories of what happened to him.
Do you think that
But
tarnishes the legacy at all?
I don't want to say that, but there's people that do. I don't believe what they say that happened to him. I don't believe that personally. They say that he committed suicide. I don't think
Right.
that's true.
Well, you know him, right? So the any tabloids that you're reading, obviously, they're just trying to sell a newspaper or a magazine. Like straight, we're hearing it right now from a pretty close source, right?
Yeah, yeah, he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's one of the people that stick out to me definitely the most.
Yeah.
And but there's so many. I got
Right.
to speak to Akon on a cell phone. I never like met him in person, but he was really nice. And I actually been on the set to one of his artists' music videos. They allowed me on the set. So, you know, LA is really weird. Like you never know you where you can be at any given time. I mean,
Right.
who knew when I moved to LA I was going to be on music video sets and movie sets, and really not putting any effort into, spending time getting to know anybody. You just the circle of the entertainment circle, it's not really hard to penetrate. It's really
Interesting.
not.
Interesting. That's definitely
Yeah.
contrary to what a lot of people think. Um, I want to get into you and your story. So I noticed you went back to school on a number of occasions. And even now you're part of accountability groups. You're part of think tanks. I know maybe you didn't say this on the episode, but I know you personally, so I know that this is true.
Yeah.
So you've been in this industry, meaning advertising, for over 20 years, and you're still
Yeah.
doing this stuff consistently, right? You're still going back to school. You're still going to these think tanks. And I think that shows a humility, which is really admirable. And I commend you for that.
Thank you.
So you obviously hold education in high regard. Why do you think it's important for a successful businesswoman such as yourself to continuously learn new skills and go back to basics? And do you ever think that there will be a point where you sort of say that all of these quote unquote self-improvement efforts are starting to distract from your end goal?
That's a complicated question. Um, I didn't. I tend to do things without not thinking too much into them. I mean, at the time, I knew I needed to become a website designer, so I jumped on this 6-month certificate, and they did it was a very quick 6-month training, and it's really stood the test of time. I mean, there hasn't been too many new tools that are coming out that we need to go back and relearn. The one class I did fail was After Effects, which I hate myself for. After Effects is a hard program.
Is
But I didn't pay it.
that's a video editing software?
It's a video effects software.
Okay.
It's how you make the comic book movies and stuff like that with
Yeah, needless to say, I don't run a video production agency, so I know some listeners are going to be like, he doesn't even know what After Effects is. How is he an agency owner? Like, that's not what I
yeah,
do. Anyway,
yeah,
yeah,
it's
sorry.
a hard program. But I mean, you could say that it was distracting. I'm just a single girl on my own, you know, trying to figure things out. And so I do look for resources. And I think up until lately, I really learned that focus is where you will allow your strengths to shine, and niching down. And that's something that you and I learned in the group that I'm in with you, um, up until recently. And, I'm glad that I've had all this time, to invest and figure things out, and maybe I've taken the long way to get to success. But I did an interview with the CEO of Fans Plan recently, and he made up a good point. Looks different for everyone, right? Your goal could be to have two kids. Like, you have two kids, you're a success. And so it's not about the end goal, because you're never going to get there. Like,
Right.
just learning and constantly improving every day. It's like the only thing that you can really focus on. Is the only thing that I focus on. And I mean, that's just like a complicated question.
Right.
People have told me that I've been told this before. This is a quote, that I have Peter Pan syndrome, meaning like
Was that
I'm
like
never.
never growing up? Well, the way you're describing it now is that it doesn't distract from the end goal, because, as you're saying, self-improvement is the end goal,
Yeah.
right? So going back to school, starting on the basics, like, besides for the fact that obviously you need humility to never get to the point that you say, I already know this stuff, I don't need it anymore.
No, and I appreciate you recognizing that. Like, I think I am super humble. And I, I don't know why I'm this way. I really don't. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm the youngest of four kids. You know, my lifestyle is not probably conventional. I moved to LA. Anyone that moves to LA is crazy.
I heard that. I've actually heard that before.
So
Things
that
like
is
like
plays.
Texas is for the sensible people, and like California is for the dreamers. Is that right?
Yeah, California is for the dreamers, and so that's where I've always been like that.
Right.
Um,
Well, good on you. Don't change that, right?
thank you, and that's why I appreciate the relationship, the friendship, and the group that we're in,
Right.
because it grounds me a lot, and I see you guys also successful agency owners, and you don't know what you don't know. And that's something that I learned on very early as well. You know, you have to always learn, because there's things that you don't know, that you don't even know you don't know.
Yeah, 100%. So you've obviously had a successful career before you started your own agency. I told you we were going to get into this. So what motivated you to step away from that, as you said, cushy job with a cushy salary? And did you, obviously in your first month, you already made that money back, but you had no idea that that was going to happen when you left. So did you ever worry
And
about
I was
leaving the
advised not to do it. I had
well,
people that were like,
but like you say, LA is for dreamers, right? Like, that's not going to stop you. If it was going to stop you, you would have moved to Texas. But did you ever worry
yeah.
about leaving the comfort of a paycheck to begin your own endeavor in your own business?
Did oh, can you repeat? I didn't hear
Like,
the
did you
first part.
ever? People were telling you not to do this, but you did
Yeah.
it anyway. So did you ever sort of listen to their advice, but decide to do it anyway, despite the fact that you were obviously going to be worried about it, or did you not really worry about
Yeah.
it? What was that
Oh yeah.
transition?
No, it put my plans on hold for a couple months. It made me stop. I thought I was like ready to go. And this, you know, um, advice I was getting was also from a really respected professional in the industry. He's the director of marketing for a college, and I don't want to say which one, but I really respect this guy's opinion. And he looked at all my financials. I mean, we really analyzed it, and it was a thought out decision. But I had already planned that 2 years ago, because I told myself, I said after year two. And I mean, one thing that made me walk away is kind of not really having the same vision as the owner of the company. Um, I was the director of marketing, but I was like the jack of trades there. I was having to go to these meetings that didn't have anything to do with marketing, being asked about structures of the company and being involved in like HR stuff. And it was just like a little bit all over the place. And that was fun. That was fun in the beginning because that's kind of what I'm used to. And yes, I'm able to do photography and videography and anything that they needed. I do print. But after year 2, I thought this is going to be it. And it's only going to get harder. I saw that job getting harder, not easier, because my bandwidth was only so big, and I was one person and they had over 300 agents there. And so once you're giving out, I was a free service on top of it. Yes, I got a salary, but I was a free service, and I kind of got burnt out a little bit. It's probably really what pushed me.
Yeah,
And
that
like I
sounds like
said,
it was a push then.
yeah, and I didn't see it like getting any better. So I thought, I'm going to take a chance.
Yeah. So let's skip to now, right? So you had
Yeah.
your story. You worked everywhere: LA Times, Los Angeles Journal, Los Angeles Daily Journal, ton of different places. Keller Williams, director of marketing, and now you're your own advertising agency owner, in real estate. That is your niche.
Yeah.
So why real estate?
Because Warren Buffett, what he says is like the real way to build wealth is to have real estate in your portfolio. And that was my in. Up until that, I didn't have any experience in real estate.
But you could have bought real estate. Meaning Warren Buffett's advice was to buy real estate to then become successful. His advice wasn't to start an agency for real estate agents. So that said,
again, I'm going the long way on everything.
Was that what it was? Is that you just wanted to be a part of that world?
Yeah. To me, it was like, this is perfect. I can do what I know how to do. And on the side, that first year I was able to, as I was promoting classes, I was able to attend a lot of them. They would have guest speakers. I was responsible for like setting up the slides and making sure all the emails went out to promote it. But then when the class came, I was able to attend as well. So I loved it. I really soaked it up because it was a very new world to me. And even when I left, before I went there, I was at an ad agency, Myriad Marketing, really great ad agency. And they thought I was crazy. I was like, I'm going to be a real estate agent, I told them. And I didn't tell them. I kind of felt bad leaving there and telling them, well, I got a director of marketing position. And for some reason, it maybe goes back to the humility. I wasn't really transparent with them. I was like, yeah, I got a job and I'm leaving. It's closer to my house. That's literally what I told them. And it's closer to my house. The salary was a little bit better because, production artists in LA, they get it's a standard salary wherever you go. And so it was a decent salary, but just the fact that I was going to be a lot closer to my house, that kind of helped seal the deal too. But they were like, what are you doing? They're like, you're not a realtor. And, in a way, I guess I still haven't even fulfilled that real estate dream. I'm still a marketer at heart.
Well, like you said, it's the journey is the goal, right? So even if you never end up, even whatever that dream is, however elusive it may be, it's the journey that's the goal, right? So you said you were a director of marketing. Can I ask where that was?
Yeah, it was at Keller Williams Pacific Estates.
Oh, wow. So what was the difference between working as the in-house director of marketing for Keller Williams versus working, because now you work with them, right? They're actually a client of yours, right?
Yes, they're all franchises. And that's something I learned, which was amazing because they were related, but not connected. Mm-hmm. So I could really use my network to take on more business, especially when I left and say, hey, I was a director of marketing at Pacific Estates. Well, even though they're not connected, they respect it. And especially that office, Pacific Estates, was the #1 office in California at the time that I was the director of marketing. They're not anymore. So me walking away,
Coincidence? I think not. That's great.
But yeah, and so I reached out to offices when I left. That's the first thing I did, because I was independent after that.
Right.
And the one in Still Beach opened, accepted me with open arms, and they were like, yes, will you come work with our agents? And I was like, of course. And this office was also very close to my house. So it worked out. And, from every brokerage has so many agents. That office has probably 150. And that was a great start for me. That was really kind of what launched my company, because I was just, after that, a free agent. And I went on and captured new business just by association. So that's really how I was able to match my salary.
I want to talk to you about individual agents and how they succeed. So, from your experience, both as a
Mhm.
director of marketing, as an agency owner, what's the biggest challenge facing real estate agents, and how can they overcome this?
They don't know how to market themselves a lot of times. They don't even know how to get a decent headshot. Some of them are using, I mean, you've heard that joke before, they're using photographs from when they were in high school.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of bad retouching. Um,
You've actually
and
seen a high school photograph as a headshot?
it's, yeah,
That's wonderful. Oh my
it's,
goodness.
it's depressing. And where did I read somewhere that, real estate agents, they get a really bad rap too, you know,
Mhm.
because they're all almost like, there's so many, especially in California. And only about 15% of all of the real estate agents are taking up 85% of the business. And, that's sales for you.
Yeah.
So real estate agents really need to know how to stand out. But even though there are a lot of real estate agents, there's still enough business for real estate agents, because you don't get every listing because you're the best real estate agent. You get a listing because you already have a reputation with someone, or your reputation precedes you and you get a referral.
Right.
But just because you're the best real estate agent in town doesn't mean that every single person wants you to sell their house. So that's why there's a lot of potential for realtors right now, and or at any time. It's all about how you connect with someone one-on-one. And so each real estate agent really needs to figure out what their value proposition is. And that's true for any business. And once you can figure out what your special sauce is, because it's mainly, the other thing is about service too, like you could have two restaurants side by side and one's more expensive, but you're going to get the best service. And so you're going to go there. You want, even if you're paying more, you don't care. And real estate agents, even though they usually have the same commission, I think really honing in on your individual story is how they can help excel their business. And then after that, then they need to learn how to really saturate the market with that message. So, I mean, it's a two-part process,
Yeah.
but to me, that would be my best advice for a real estate agent.
We had a guest on the show a couple months ago now. Actually, you know him, Wes Foster. He's in our group as well. Okay, so he gave a great example, and he it's actually so funny right now because I posted this video literally today.
I know, I
Um,
saw it.
so essentially, I guess now just for the audience, because you already know what's coming up. You got two cars. You got a I forgot which car. What you said, Toyota Civic or a
Ferrari.
Honda
Oh
Civic
yeah,
versus a
no, Honda.
Ferrari. So
Yeah.
everybody's gonna pick the Ferrari, obviously. But little do they know that once they pick the Ferrari, they open the hood and there's no engine inside, and then they open the Civic or the Camry or whatever it was, and there's a V10 inside. So the real estate agent's job is to make sure that whatever car they're driving, it's got a great engine, meaning it actually does the job and it does it well. And
Yeah.
your job as the marketer is to turn that Toyota
Define that.
Camry, to sort of take that
Yeah.
engine that they're creating and put it inside of the Ferrari.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that sort of embodies, I think, no pun intended, but that sort of embodies what you're saying is that you're trying to take this Camry, and this is what they need to do. They sort of need to take this Camry and turn it into a Ferrari. And then once that happens, I'll start to snowball.
Exactly.
Right.
Your hardest deal is, I mean, your first deal is always the hardest for
So
anything.
what would differentiate high performing realtors from the rest?
I think work ethic. There's not a lot of, sometimes it doesn't matter how hard you work, right? You
Right.
could be working hard and focusing on the wrong thing. You're not going to get anywhere. But with real estate, they have to have that drive. They're their own boss. Their clients are their boss in a way when they get a client. But before then, you know, I think maximizing their systems, becoming efficient in their systems, and really just finding out what you're good at, as far as like how you're going to get sales. Because there's that, going back to the Keller Williams model, they say just to pick 2 things that you like to do, because there's a lot of ways you can generate leads in real estate. But you don't have to do them all, and you don't have to like them all, and that's fine. But find the 2 that you do. Some people hate cold calling. Don't cold call. Shoot a video, text your friends, send out video messages. Don't cold call. Text people. Texting is the biggest. You're going to get the most reception out of text messaging than you are from cold calling anyways. So just pick the 2 things that you like to do, that you enjoy to do, to build your database. If you don't have a database, then you don't have anything. Your database is your engine to your car. And that's coming from the MREA book, which is Keller Williams Million Dollar Real Estate Agent. That's like the Bible of real estate. So if you're a brand new agent, any real estate agent needs to read this book. It'll take you from, not having any deals to at least getting your first one. And there's a literal roadmap inside of this book. So yeah, in this book, they say just to pick the 2 things that you like to do, not that because it's got to be enjoyable. Like, what are you doing if you don't like what you're making money? That's why I'm self-employed, is because I want to make money doing things that I like to do.
Yeah. So you referenced that book that Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams, wrote. We had a couple weeks ago, Jeff Woods on the show.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, that was awesome. I was very excited to have him. So he's the host of the One Thing podcast.
Dude, that is crazy.
Yeah, no, that was
Tell
awesome.
Everybody, I'm cutting you off, but tell everybody how you got this guy.
You know what? Actually, it was I read the book and I loved it. And normally what I do is I just kind of reach out to somebody who I think is going to have a good story. And I don't really look at social status or anything like that. And so if I have no relationship with somebody, or if I don't know anybody at all, or I don't know any of their content, I'm not just going to reach out to them because they're someone who's important. But it happens to be, I read the book and I loved it. So I reached out to Gary Keller, and he said, you should reach out to Jeff
You
Woods.
reached out to Gary Keller?
Yeah. So Gary Keller, yeah, you got to be fearless.
You just went right to the top.
Well, I think what you got to do is you got to, number 1, be fearless. And number 2, you need to know how to compose a good email, right? Like, they see this crap all day long. So if okay, so I didn't get a response, just a disclaimer, but I just sent an email to Gary Vaynerchuk. So you obviously have to know your email, know the person you're talking to. So Gary Vaynerchuk's all about authenticity, right? So however accredited, however qualified I may be, Gary Vaynerchuk is out of my level. Like, obviously I want to make myself look great, but I gotta be humble a little bit for a second. Gary Vaynerchuk is out of my league a little bit right now, but we'll get there. But it is. I sent him this long email saying, hey, this is basically what I'm doing right now. I'm starting to see some success with this. I've reached out to some pretty high profile people. I said, what I was going to do, I was going to ask you to come on my show, aggrandize my qualifications and all of this, but I know you'd see right through it. So here's the real thing. Every single thing, where I'm at, the level of success that I'm at, in my mind, maybe I'm very successful, but in his mind is like, oh yeah, okay, fine. Maybe I'll read your email. But I laid it all out on the table. So I'm still waiting for a response from him. But the idea is the same, is that to Gary Keller, because Gary Keller did respond, right? Like
That's
Tom
awesome.
Ferry. I also reached out to Tom Ferry. So Tom Ferry did respond. Mark Randolph, the founder of Netflix, he did respond. So these people
Look at you, Oliver, checking them
there
out.
we go.
Awesome.
But I think what was important is that when I reached out to Tom Ferry, I had watched his content. When I reached out to Mark Randolph, I had read his book. So I reached out and I referenced it. The great thing is that these people, they're just people, right? And they're very important. So they speak to a lot of people. But one thing I love about podcasting is it doesn't matter if you're talking, I don't know, to the president versus, it doesn't matter, right? They're just, at the end of the day, it's a person.
Yes.
And I never, when I'm talking to you right now, when I think about my audience is when I'm formulating the podcast before we start. Right now, in my head, I'm in a room and you're in a room, and me and you are having a conversation. Yes. And that's why I love podcasting, because it's so intimate and it's so, I guess, authentic, right? So that's sort of, I know we're digressing a little bit. You forced me to talk about myself, which I love doing, but but that's
no, I want to hear about Jeff Woods.
So you want to know how the interview
Tell
went?
Everybody who Jeff Woods is. And I
You will,
and I I have the book here just because I knew you were going to talk about it.
oh,
I'm
that's
not
so
going to
funny.
act like, oh, look what I have. I knew you were going to bring it up.
That's funny. Well, in my defense, I brought it up because you referenced the million
I
dollar
knew
real.
one of us was. I wasn't saying
Yeah.
you, but so you met. So you reached. So I know Jay Papasan and Jeff. Well, I don't know him, but I've worked in the circle because I'm part of Keller Williams. And what did Jeff do on this book then?
So okay, so we speak about it a little bit more on the actual episode, but essentially Jeff's relationship to Gary and Jay was Jeff had heard Jay Papasan say that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So he made himself a list. He went to a conference and Jay Papasan was talking and he had and every chair had that book on it. And after Jay had finished speaking, Jeff said, I need to get in touch with that guy because he needs to be part of my 5. So he went over to him, and it just
Very
so
cool.
happened to be, I'm going to quote Jeff, one of those serendipitous moments where they were looking for somebody to run the One Thing brand because Jay's One Thing was writing books with Gary. Gary's One Thing was running Keller Williams. And so they needed someone whose One Thing was running the brand. So that's sort of how he got that position. The way, I mean, he just made a good move. You know what I mean? Like, I think people overthink this type of stuff is that regardless of who I've actually had on the show, I got in touch with some of the world's biggest business leaders, right? Like Mark
That's a fact.
show, apparently he's in the middle of a project right now, so he's taking a hiatus from shows. But I spoke to him and he put me in touch with his publicist and she said, not at the moment, we'll be in touch soon. So, I mean, that's up for grabs right now. Like, we'll see what happens there. Tom Ferry, like the Tom Ferry, he said, yeah, reach out to this person and we'll see what happens. Like, regardless of whether or not they happen, like I made like that step happened, I spoke to the big guy. And then I think it's just about putting kind of good energy out there and
I love that. I can't wait to watch the interview. You put it out, right?
so the episode is on Spotify.
Okay.
The videos, I'm breaking them up into highlights. I have them set, but I sort of slowly post highlights
Okay.
of the episode. So yeah, so you'll see those. I posted a couple into the Facebook group and onto my Facebook page, so you can see them there. But it was a great interview,
That's a huge win. And, maybe because I'm Kellerized, and we fangirl over the leadership. They have a annual meeting, it's called Family Reunion. I've been to the last 2. I don't remember what happened this year because of the pandemic. No, I didn't go to this one, but I went to the 2 before. And I met Josh Team, who is the head of technology there. And that was my mission, to meet him. I got a picture with him and I was like fangirling over him. But did you hear that Gary Keller stepped down from being the CEO today?
I did not. That's huge.
Yeah. I got an email because I'm a Keller Williams agent. Yeah, he stepped down. I'm assuming they bumped Josh Team up. The Josh Team keeps going up the ranks. So I didn't read the full article.
Yeah.
But I did see the headline.
That's huge. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you're here, by the way, and you appreciate it, because when I got this, obviously I know Keller Williams, but whenever I tell you, so you know Keller Williams, and a lot of the time, because I know I'm in real estate, but people are like, no, I'm not familiar with Keller Williams. Maybe it's a Canadian thing, but every time someone says that, I just want to like ring them. Like, how do you not know Keller Williams? And then I was like, okay, well then I guess this is going to be so cool to you, but I spoke to Jeff Woods, whatever.
Is there a brokerage near your house in Canada?
Is there a Keller Williams brokerage? I know that there is a brokerage around here because I know that I see like those for sale signs from a lot of Keller.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, they exist here for sure. It's it definitely surprises me the amount of people that I speak to who haven't heard of Keller Williams, because they're the biggest brokerage in the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
That's super cool.
So let me get back to you, right? Because I do want to talk about you and your experience. So a lot of realtors, particularly the ones starting out, they don't think that they have the money to invest in a marketing professional. And just as a disclaimer, the reason that I say that they don't think that they have the money as opposed to they actually don't have the money is because at least this is what I think as an agency owner, if they did truly believe in the return that they will actually be getting, that I know that they will be getting. So if they actually believed in that return, then they'll manage to find the money. So notwithstanding
Yeah.
that, for those, let's say, who are reluctant to invest for whatever reason in professional marketing, what do you suggest are some steps that they could take to amplify their business by themselves without the need for a professional?
I mean, social media is free, so you really shouldn't have any excuse. I get it. Graphics a little bit more trickier for people. I think Canva is free. Canva is free.
Yeah, they have a
So
premium version, but they do have a free version as well.
step one, Facebook business page. Step two, do the Google My Business location. Those things are free. What you don't have money for, you can make up in your time and energy. And I like to think that, and I feel this is good. This is true for any good business, is like you really do need to front load work, right? Like when you're starting any new venture, it's always the hardest. The setup is the hardest part. So you really do have to invest your time and energy. And real estate it's not an easy career field. It's not. I think only 30% of agents really actually become producing agents.
Mm-hmm.
They call them ghost agents, the agents that are on the rosters and they have zero production. So I just think using your resources around you, I'm super resourceful. I mean, that was just instilled in me from an early age. And you got to make something happen. I did when I was younger. I created a magazine because I wanted to get backstage. Just kidding.
What do you mean get backstage?
Backstage at shows, concerts.
Oh, well, that's a good enough motivation. That's
And I
good.
knew how to design. And so
There
there
you
you
go.
go.
That was
There
your
you
in.
go.
But then you realized, like you said, that it actually wasn't so hard to infiltrate the industry. And
Yeah.
then you stopped and you thought, what the hell was I doing for so many years then?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you find a way. If that's what you
Yeah.
want to, if you're trying to get into real estate, it is an expensive business initially just to, get your marketing off the ground. And then you have dues you have to pay and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's a good return. So you just have to decide, like, how much time are you willing to sacrifice?
Yeah. It almost sounds like, as the serial entrepreneur, or let's call you a serial hustler that you are, you barely even
I'll
understand the
take
question. It's like, what do you suggest people do? It's like, well, what do you mean they do? You just work. Like,
that. Yeah.
is there another option? Like, what else is there? I
I
love it.
mean,
So,
the other thing you could do is join a team, which I've never done. I don't know if I would ever be able to do that, but if you really want to learn the business, like, just join a team or become a real estate assistant, and there's always work you can do.
right.
Yeah. So
So with social media though, people post and then they get no engagement. So I always tell them, like, don't be afraid to just talk to yourself for a little while. Would there be something else
on
that you would want
video.
to? I'm saying on video, but when you post, even if no one responds, like, just keep going. Like, the algorithm will start to
Oh,
get the message, like, you're not going anywhere, right?
completely. You have to be consistent. I believe in the compound effect as well, as because my podcast, I'm making some sense on my podcast,
There we
but
go.
it's all gonna grow. I know it.
That's a big money making endeavor, right?
Yeah, get on Anchor, guys. But yeah, I think that you just have to put the work in. You just have
Right.
to put the work in the beginning. But yeah, consistency for sure. I mean, if you watch Gary Vee, I mean, what does he say? He's like content, content, content.
Yeah.
So eventually you will grow following. And if you don't, then look for other ways. Maybe Facebook isn't where your audience is at. That's where it comes down to pick a couple things that you're good at.
Yeah.
You know, not
Yeah.
all of your audience or your clients are going to be on one particular platform, because maybe you're trying to reach the elderly, right? People that are going to retire or they're going to downsize. Are they on Facebook every day? Most likely not.
Right.
So where are those people hanging out? Um, Go to a coffee shop, offer to do a partnership with, a local spot that retirees hang out. Get in a veterans club, like, just offer to do something for free that it won't take up too much time and you don't have to put money into, but you're going to grow your network and find out where your audience is again, maybe they're not on Facebook, and that's when you need to find, other means. Digital
Yeah.
marketing isn't the end all, right? Even though it's kind of consumed us, real estate is really a relationship building business.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I had a guest on the show also a couple months ago now, or a couple weeks ago, I should say. And she was so relationship driven. And it was almost like a little bit controversial having her on the show because her decisions that she makes are so focused on building a genuine relationship that they sometimes do affect her bottom line. So I actually had to say over the course of the show, like, just a disclaimer from a digital marketer's perspective, this is not the best use of your money. But the reason that we have her on the show is because she doesn't give a crap. She's trying to go out there and make a difference in the world and just be a good person. So I think
And
that's,
that makes her a success.
and she is, you know what I mean? It doesn't make, if you look, it doesn't make any sense how she's doing so well because she doesn't, I've like called her and I'm like, hey, I don't want to be salesy to you, but like you can make a killing right now doing some lead generation. She's like, I'm actually good. Like I have my clients, I just want to focus on them, make sure I give them a kill. And like, it doesn't make sense. Like, how are you doing as well as you're doing? But that's really what it is like you're saying, it's a relationship business. And she has like seriously mastered that. And it's awesome.
That's
Um,
awesome.
You've had such a dynamic career, and I'd imagine that you're a role model for many young entrepreneurs, particularly young girl entrepreneurs who want to succeed. I want to understand your mindset a little bit in terms of what motivates you and what you would suggest to other aspiring entrepreneurs. So, what motivates you to keep hustling all day, every day, the way that you do?
I want to get better every day. I don't feel anything is handed out. You have to earn. I learned you can make something out of nothing. I proved it. And you just have to repeat, whatever is working for you, whatever you're good at. I'm pretty creative, I think, and I've always leaned on that. So, I mean, for young entrepreneurs, I love that they have so much energy. I've actually worked with young entrepreneurs. They've interned for me. I learned, you just learn a lot from young people in general. They not only are you teaching them, but they're teaching you.
Right.
Um, and and they have a lot of tools in their hands. They grew up on technology. So is it a downfall to grow up on technology? That's another debate because they didn't grow up like running outside. They grew up
Yeah.
like we did, like I did. But you know, the drive is just, it's the game of life. If you want that house, you have to work for it. Nobody's going to hand anything to you. And that's always been like my motto. I'm not going to sit back and wait for anyone to give me anything. I'm going to go out and make it happen. And what else is there to do with your life? I mean, to me, that's what life is about, is just getting better. And if you want to invest in something, you have to invest in yourself. Um, and I'm sure you've heard that too. When you get paid, you need to pay yourself first. And it goes back to, that's how rich people get rich.
Yeah.
It's because when they get paid, their bills come second, which I'm not advising people to ignore their bills, but you have to invest in yourself. Maybe my drive is something I saw from my father and my mother. My dad, seeing him being a soldier in the military and getting up every day and watching him go to PT training, and maybe that's where I picked it up at. And life hasn't been easy. I mean, definitely everybody has things that they've had to deal with. I've definitely dealt with some tragedies in my life. My nephew was killed. He was a young guy, and he kind of inspired me too when he died, because he was like a huge fan of mine. Like when I was working at the director at Pacific Estates, he used to call me. He was like, he loved that I would tell him I was like shooting something on green screen, and he just ate it up. And like, he was just like, that's so cool. And, he always pushed me and said, you can do whatever you want. And so, you know, you have to get inspiration from who you
Mhm.
surround yourself with. And I love that you said that you are the product of the 5 people in your circle. My circle is pretty small. I know a lot of people, but talking day to day and getting advice that you trust, like, you really have to value that. And and keep people in your circle that are going to give you the honest truth, but in a very positive uh, manner. Not someone, you want somebody, even if somebody's like brutally honest, like that's not really going to help you, because it's just going to maybe make you not want to continue down the path and mess with your mind a little bit. So you really have to have mental strength. So I'm a big believer of listening to audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying to get that Ferrari too.
Yeah. Yeah. So like an ability to grow. I'm just I suppose paraphrasing, it would be a desire and ability to grow and succeed, along with people who believe in you and people who are also not afraid to tell you something that you don't want to hear.
Yeah. And I like to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fun to make money. And so I think that's the other part of my drive is like, I'm money motivated. That I don't think that's a bad word.
No, not
To
at
be,
all.
I'm definitely money motivated.
Yeah.
And you should spend time on things that are going to make you money. And that's another thing real estate agents don't do, that they say in the MREA book is like, you can look busy, but you're not getting anything done.
Yeah.
So you need to prioritize and only do the things that you're actually making income for you or bringing about sales that are going to generate revenue.
I wonder why there is an aversion to saying that some people do care about money. Like when I was a teacher, I would ask people what they wanted to be, and these kids would always, even the kids who wanted to make a ton of money and live in a nice house, it was like they were embarrassed to say that a little bit sometimes.
It's
And I said,
kind
like,
of a bad word.
but I said, if you don't want to do it, then you don't have to do it. But if you want to do it, like, even if it was a bad thing, which it's not, but even if it was a bad thing, you're not like choosing to want that. That's it. This is the life. This is the wants and desires that I was given. But it's not a bad thing. And I don't know who's going around there telling kids, like, don't be materialistic. Don't want, like, I mean, obviously everything's in moderation, right? Like,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
should drink water, but that doesn't mean that you should only drink water and you shouldn't eat anything and all you do all day is drink water. It's the same thing with anything.
And that's why it's important to find your passion, because then if you don't feel like work, if it doesn't feel like work and you're focusing on building yourself up, the money will come. So, and it's like Zig Ziglar says, like, you help enough people, they're going to help you get what you want.
Yeah.
And that perspective, you stop thinking about the money, and so it comes full circle anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, find your passion and try and build up your skill set, and in any passion, you're going to find something that there's a way you can generate revenue from it. But if you want to start off not saying that you're money motivated, that's perfectly fine. Get experience. Yeah. And in the end, if you're bringing value to people, you're going to eventually, that can turn into monetary value.
Right.
So, it's definitely a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
That was hard to say.
Double-edged sword. Yeah. No, it requires also a lot of introspection and intellectual honesty and emotional intelligence and all of that type of stuff, right? To know what you really want as opposed to what other people tell you that you want. Angelica, you have kids. Am I right?
Yeah. I have a son. Yes.
Okay. So if you could guarantee, you have one son?
Yes.
Okay. So if you could guarantee that he would remember one piece of advice, not that he wouldn't remember any other piece of advice, but you one piece of advice that you know for sure he's going to remember. And I'm sorry for putting you on the spot with such a heavy existential question, but what would that be?
Well, this sounds to me, it's not like the best answer, but it's my honest answer. I really believe in life insurance.
So. That's cool. That's cool. We can make something.
Get life insurance when you're young, because I always wish I had that when I was 20.
You know what? That would make a killer ad for a life insurance company, or like a broker or something. Like, you heard it from Angelica Pequeño. She doesn't even do life insurance, but this is what she says. That would be great.
I always ask him if he's investing in stocks, and life insurance is a form of, it's an annuity. So
right. It's like one of those things you don't want to think about, but then when you need it, like, God forbid, you don't want to think about that stuff. But
definitely.
So, what do you think is the biggest thing that holds people back from living their dreams, and how would you advise that people get over that?
I think people are always worried about what other people are going to think and say, and that's true. But I've also heard a quote: "You would not think that way if you knew how little," and I'm probably misquoting this, but if you knew how little people thought of you, you wouldn't care so much. It's true. People aren't interrogating your Facebook page and your posts and tearing them apart. Just be yourself. You can't make everybody happy, and you're never going to. So just just focus on making yourself happy. Don't
Yeah.
worry about other people's opinions of you. And if you have people in your ear that you don't like what they're saying, you have the power to protect your energy. I'm really big on that. I just want to be happy, and if you're not providing like a positive energy, then
Yeah.
that's okay, but you don't need to be in my circle.
Right.
So yeah, don't
You,
worry about what people are saying about you.
have you ever heard? Do you know Casey Musgraves? She's a country singer.
Yeah, I've
So
heard of her.
she's awesome. So she has a song called "Follow Your Arrow." It's a very very good song. You know the song?
I don't, but it reminds me of somebody that has an arrow on their arm.
Yeah. So it's a very
Tattoo.
good song. It's like fun, whimsical. And it says, I mean, the song is called "Follow Your Arrow," so I'm sure you're gonna know exactly what it's about. But I definitely suggest that you listen to that song because I think
Yeah.
it's exactly what you're talking about there.
Oh, I'll totally look it up.
So, Angelica, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. But before I let you go, let me ask, how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you, Oliver. You're amazing. You're a rock star. I love talking to you every week, and thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. And I see what you're doing. You're doing great things. I'm so proud of you. And
I appreciate that. Thank you so
so,
much.
yeah. You guys can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Angie Smallz, and it's ANGEESMALLZ. And if you want to look up my marketing agency, just go to justadd.me. So the name of my company is Just Add Me. And so that's where you'll find me. You can also email me, Angelica at justadd.me. But that's the quickest way to get a hold of me. On my website, there is a texting number. If you have a marketing question, you can text me and I will respond. So follow me on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel too. If you look up Angelica Smallz with a Z, this video should be up there as well after it's posted.
Definitely, for
Yes.
sure. By all means, I'll definitely
Yay, I love
send
it.
you the video afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
So
you, Angela, for
yeah.
coming on the show. I really appreciate it.